I told Dad on you. For a while I didn't understand, but then I realized that Director Mike was standing directly behind Charles, gazing at me fiercely. Mike came up to me in silence and said, "You've been a bother for a long time," in a low voice that only I could hear. "There's nowhere left for you here, even if you stay. You must comprehend what this means if you're intelligent, don't you?" I had a hard time keeping my shaking fists in check. I eagerly submitted my resignation letter, hoping to get out of this organization as quickly as possible after they vanished. "Hey Charles, don't think your parents or anyone else will always clean up your mess." Charles took the seat that I had occupied and sat back haughtily. "What are you doing here, old man? It is not open to outsiders." He's still unaware of my present circumstances. It's time for Mike to feel bad about what he and his kid did. Scene is my name. I am 40 years old, unmarried, and share a home with my cherished dog. I work for Panther Japan Corporation, the Japanese division of the international sportswear company Panther. It's been 5 years since I joined the product planning department, and 5 years since I was promoted to chief producer. I've created around 300 things thus far, and not too terrible. Roughly 30% of them have been hits. Things are going great at work, but lately I've been tackling a particular issue. Good morning, everyone. Today, let's slaughter those suckers. The chief of the product planning department, Mike Davis, 55, is the one who sent out this offensive welcome. He is my supervisor right now. I don't get along with Mike, to put it frankly. His smooth words and opportunistic tactics have frequently frustrated me, even though he may not be a nasty person. Monitoring the figures and creating a budget are two of Mike's weaknesses. He also does a terrible job of organizing papers, such as estimates and invoices. Even though Mike's managerial role requires him to give the final permission, he consistently signs off without thoroughly reviewing them. Once, a novice made a number mistake and bypassed my approval request review process, delivering it straight to Mike. Mike authorized it without even looking at the paperwork and sent it to another department, despite the fact that the figures were obviously incorrect. The one thing that irritates me about large companies is the complex and stringent regulations that apply to all financial activities. Although it seems sophisticated, all that's involved are a few of emails and antiquated rubber stamp relays. As chief producer, it is difficult for me to get hold of a crucial document once it has passed the approval pipeline. I was able to obtain the document immediately before it was delivered to the manager of the finance department by following the retrieval request procedure. This isn't technically my work. I gritted my teeth and unwillingly walked up to Mike, not wanting this to happen again. "I'll make sure to properly warn the new recruit, so please be careful next time and make sure to open the files." It felt like I was speaking to a kindergartner, but Mike laughed so hard and without regret, it was unbelievable. "Don't worry. The next time something comes up, I'll rely on you because you're a capable main producer. You are the department's firefighter in charge of product planning." As he spoke these words, he patted my shoulder. It rendered me mute. Mike strode quickly by me and entered the company's smoking area at the rear entrance. He would probably take half an hour to return. Unfortunately, not many people in the organization are aware of Mike's casual attitude toward his work and his penchant to take unscheduled smoke breaks. Mike is calculating despite his outward characteristics. Most individuals would view him as an affable, amiable, and hilarious department head after just a few days of interaction. That initially tricked me, at least. That is the part of Mike that is tricky. Why then haven't Mike's deeds been made public yet? It's ironic, really, because I've been the one tending to the fires behind the scenes, as he mentioned. However, I do not intend to live up to the incompetent boss's legacy indefinitely. Perhaps this is the moment to persevere. I'll continue for a little while longer. I chat to my cherished puppy every day to let out my frustrations at work. All of a sudden, I would like to present a new employee who will be joining today. Kindly get together immediately following lunch. Mike beckoned the group into the meeting space. Panther Japan Corporation employs about 10,000 people and has branches all over the world. There is a lot of turnover because some employees go overseas and others come from overseas branches. Since hiring in the middle of one's career is normal, introductions are typically informal. But I had a strange feeling today. A great feeling of distrust prevailed. "Charles, you can come in," Mike excitedly announced, and the door to the conference room flew open. The man who casually strolled in had bright brown permed hair, piercings in his nose and right ear, and was probably in his early 30s. Looks don't always tell a whole story, but this was his first day on the job. I was compelled to scowl. The man had on pants, a gaudy gold shoe, and a jacket that barely fit him. Beneath, I knew his wide smile, aquiline nose, and small eyes. "Oh," I realized right away. "My name is Charles Davis. You work in a terrific location, Dad. You two are a proud Panther employee as of right now." This man's face was exactly like his father's. He was clearly Mike's son. So starting today, he's a member of this department. "Hey, Scene, would you please look after Charles? You being in charge will make me feel better." I experienced vertigo. I now had to take care of his son in addition to Mike. Not at all. We're both adults here, so I'll give you the bare minimum of supervision, I reassuringly informed the Davis pair. After a moment of looking displeased in front of everyone, Mike instantly put on his typical phony smile. "Let me show you the break room, Charles. Here, drinks are free. Isn't that fantastic? It's almost like a comic cafe, Dad. Panther is certainly giving." Giggling and enjoying themselves immensely, the father and son exited the conference room. With a groan, I began to leave the room. "Are you okay, Scene?" Maria Johnson, my junior, gave me a worried look. Although she's new to the position and is still getting the hang of it, she's really thoughtful regarding the money flow issue from the other day. "I'm really sorry for the trouble. It is not a concern. Since you're new, mistakes are common. Make as many as you can right now, in fact." When I laughed, Maria grinned with relief. I've always held the opinion that individuals in positions of authority should assist others who are less experienced. That does not imply that I will pamper him. A glimmer of optimism flickered in my mind, then vanished. I love New York. It's really fun. The girls are adorable. Loudly, Charles yelled in the office. He was unaware of the sly looks he was receiving from the female staff members around. He started working in our department a month ago. As I predicted, I've been growing busier and busier. Not only do this father and son have identical looks, but they also have similar personalities. Charles hasn't taken his work seriously since joining. Charles should speak decent business English, according to Mike, who told me that he has experience working at an international branch of a big fashion company. Charles reacted angrily when I proposed that he join this week's teleconference with the San Francisco branch, asking, 9:00 p.m. teleconference. That is really insane. I'm not capable of that. It is true that, in order to accommodate their local time, online meetings with the foreign branch frequently begin early in the morning or late at night. Naturally, this time I would merely ask him to sit in while I conducted the conversation. I encouraged him to come learn, but he flatly declined. With little remorse, Charles stated, "After 9:00 p.m. is my reward time for enjoying online games." Like his father, I found his lack of commitment to be extremely disappointing. Charles also had the awful tendency of being late. He stayed in a dorm owned by the corporation when working for a prior employer with its headquarters located in N-City, Ibaraki Prefecture. Rumor has it that Charles enjoys an adventurous life in New York. He is said to go out drinking every night with colorful but dubious personalities. Since his first day, it seems like he has become even more showy. When he did appear, he was tinkering with his recently bleached blonde hair. Again, I had too much to drink last night. Instead of going home, they crashed in a comic cafe. He smelled like beer as he drew nearer, but nobody sought to correct him. It seemed like no one in this place wanted anything to do with him. And who was responsible for them? Getting into a relationship with Mike's son has no advantages. Charles, you must become more conscious of your adult responsibilities. You're not exempt from everything just because you're new. It is very bad to be late. Charles frowned at me, suddenly looking upset that I had admonished him. Oh my God, elderly gentleman. Please don't dictate to me. He appeared to be about to lose it. Never before have I seen someone so inebriated. You're a hassle to everyone. Are you unaware of that? Be respectful, please. Perhaps because I maintained my composure, he became even more furious. Stop talking. It irritates me because you're my boss. You always have your eyes on me. You'll remain a chief indefinitely and never get promoted. Horrible. Charles gave me a sneer. Oh, looking at your face makes me feel bad. I'm heading to the smoke. He pivoted and departed from the office. To be honest, I hoped he wouldn't return, but that was obviously not going to occur. Charles reappeared 30 minutes later, strolling idly. He turned and faced me, a victorious smile on his face. I told Dad about you. For a while I didn't understand, but then I realized that Mike was standing directly behind Charles, gazing at me aggressively. Scene, I heard you tried to make Charles work late at night and said some horrible things to him, didn't you? I believe he's talking about the most recent teleconference. Mike had gotten it entirely wrong. With a dramatic shrug, Charles made an exaggerated face. Dad, is the chief producer's behavior acceptable? He wants me to start chatting to foreigners straight away, even though I'm still fresh here. That is extremely difficult. It is blatantly hazing. No, that isn't accurate. All I did was advise Charles to observe in order to learn. I attempted to clarify, but Mike scowled and gave me a chilly look. Scene, are you venting your resentment at not getting promoted on my son? You're my subordinate, but you've always bossed me around. Have you not always thought less of me? However, that is all done now. You are no longer needed by us. The team can function smoothly without you. Leave, you haughty fool. At last, Mike let his actual self be known. Then he moved close to me in silence, whispering, You've been a nuisance for a long time, so only I could hear. You still have time to save face if you step down willingly right now. You no longer have a place here. Astute readers will understand what I mean. That said, Mike went back to his typical phony smile. I apologize to everyone for the uproar. Let's get back to work now. I'm going to go smoke now. Ignoring myself, I clawed at my shaking fists. Smug-looking Mike and Charles strolled by me. I have zero English language skills. Dad, that was close. Goodbye. I eagerly submitted my resignation letter, hoping to get out of the organization as quickly as possible after they vanished. I woke up the following day as usual. Upon realizing that I was no longer required to attend work, I considered my options. I might go to the coffee shop I saw earlier. It's a little way off the route that leads from my house to the station. An elegant elderly man said, "Welcome to me." I inhaled deeply as the shop filled with the fragrant aroma of coffee. Please grab any available seat. I took a seat at the tiny table at the rear, caressed the antique table, and unfolded the leather-bound menu. I considered the signature meals to be spaghetti, Napolitan, and hummus. As I turned the page, I discovered traditional sweets like firm custard pudding and cream soda, which added to the cozy atmosphere. My phone rang on the table as I was thinking about how fortunate I was to be in this moment. The number on the screen was strange. Usually, phone companies call me about new plans or insurance sales, but this one started with 090. I scowled. Do I have to respond? It didn't feel good. The ringing eventually stopped, but no sooner had I felt a sense of relief than the same number called once more. The unceasing sequence of ringing, pausing, then ringing again persisted. The following day and the day after that, the calls continued. I returned to that coffee shop one day. The bookshelf with the weekly diaries and publications caught my attention. As I was waiting for my coffee, I took up a copy of Weekly Shun without thinking. I couldn't contain my excitement as I turned the pages and exclaimed. I skimmed the article quickly. Surprise, not in a manner. Upon completion, I was overcome with a feeling of void. I picked up the magazine again and read the piece once more. It said, Panther Japan facing bankruptcy. How in the world did that workplace come to be? Although I couldn't verify the accuracy of the Weekly Shunin report, it did provide me with new insight into a previously unknown aspect of Panther Japan Corporation. I sat there in a stupor even after I had finished my coffee. Next, the unidentified number rang once more. Do I respond or should I ignore it? Though I was conflicted, I knew that the calls would not stop if I didn't answer right away. I hit answer on the following call, resigned. Seen? Yes. Who is this? You've been phoning for days on end. It irritates me greatly. Would you kindly stop? My battery is being depleted by you, I stated strongly. There was a momentary quietness on the other side. Seen, do you not know who I am? Your number was given to me by my wife. The voice was recognizable. I searched my mind for a memory. Mr. Mo, that is, the CEO. How was my number obtained by the CEO? Later on, that might be clarified. I was worried about the company's circumstances for the time being. A magazine happened to be read by me. Is everything in order? Over the phone, the CEO sighed. Well, where do I even start? I stood up straight and held my phone firmly. The tension in the office increased after I left, the one who cleaned up Mike's mess most of the time. To start, I managed a collaborative project with a well-known influencer. As more individuals spend time at home, major video sites saw a big surge in the popularity of at-home training content. One influencer in particular was well known for her positive outlook and thorough explanations. She would introduce protein and organic seasonings, and they would sell out in an instant. Upon observing this, my subordinate Maria got in touch with her agency, and they agreed to work together on a sportswear line. But after my sudden departure, the environment at work worsened, and Maria found it difficult to work alone without someone to mentor her or support her in times of need. Maria and the other youthful staff members lost interest in taking on new tasks. Mike would brutally lay all the responsibility on them if they failed. Because of this strategy, Maria and the younger workers looked for other jobs right away. That being said, the partnership project was canceled. We no longer have a producer on staff who can guide the crew and understand the nuances of getting a project from concept to finished product. The CEO spoke in a depressed tone. I had no doubt that the partnership would have been a great success. The sales for this quarter would be greatly impacted by its cancellation. The Cantor Sports Watch came next. Charles made a mess of that. What action did he take? Cantor is a well-known Swiss watchmaker that produces watches of the finest caliber. A recent economic news item emphasized how well the new Cosmo series was selling. Panther Japan and Cantor worked together to develop a high-end sports watch targeted at wealthy consumers. The promotion mostly highlighted high-cost monthly personal gym memberships. The sports watch, which brought together the luxury of Cantor with the tough, sweat, and water-resistant performance of Panther, took off right away. Plans were in place for a second release. However, everything was shelved due to an incident. You do realize that Charles spent every night out partying with sketchy characters, don't you? Yes, essentially. He boasted to them about working for Panther. He made a joke one night when intoxicated by submerging the sports watch in a beer mug. It wasn't just a joke. Cantor saw the pictures of his inebriated antics making the rounds. Placing such a significant object in alcohol was seen by them as a degradation of their handiwork. I buried my face in my hands, which was not surprising, knowing him. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, the CEO went on. The remainder is how it appears in Weekly Shunin. I forcefully gulped. What's wrong with the West Bengal, India, Kolkata sewing factory? Indeed, it is accurate. the SDGs are still not entirely accepted by the fashion sector. Large corporations like Panther, which depend on mass manufacturing and consumption, provide evidence of this. Large sewing factories are usually located in South Asian nations such as Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, India, and Nepal. Yet, regional differences in working conditions are significant. High-poverty areas have long been blamed for having unfavorable labor laws and working conditions. Even when businesses attempt to raise employee pay, regional supervisors or middlemen frequently embezzle the funds. I worked on a project that was overseen by a group of reliable local employees with the goal of establishing a secure work environment. Charles was chosen to be your replacement and took over as project manager. That was everything I needed to understand in one line. But he doesn't speak English and has no experience in this industry, the CEO said gravely. His inability to comprehend technical words hindered his ability to communicate with local staff. Charles eventually gave up. After the project failed, Director Mike proposed going back to the previous setup. The factory collapsed not long afterward. My eyes shifted to the ceiling. I had gone to inspect the sewing plant in Kolkata once. The structure was in awful shape and appeared to be ready to fall at any time. The workers gave me a contemptuous look when I wore a helmet and went into the building. Those eyes will never leave me. That's the reason I began this endeavor. Although our company is not the only one responsible, the public's opinion differs. A large clothing manufacturer working in appalling conditions is a story that the media loves to fabricate and then propagate as fact. I clutched my phone and gazed out the window. I inhaled deeply to help me relax. So, what are you expecting me to do? The CEO begged me to come back to Panther. Yesterday, I would have said no if he had asked, but this time, things were different. The happened at the sewing factory in Kolkata profoundly altered my viewpoint. I made the decision to go back. My first task was to make everything plain. Charles, hello. Charles was slouching in the chair I used to sit in. Hi, old guy. How come you're here? No outsiders are permitted. It seems that he was unaware of my existing circumstances. Dad, I saw this strange guy who used to work here stroll in. Shouldn't we expel him? Charles yelled in Mike's direction. When I heard the reports, my blood began to boil. Are you coming back to us? Not able to obtain employment elsewhere. How pathetic. By what means did you return here? A loud voice cried out from behind me as Mike walked over to me, beaming. The CEO was the one in question. Mike, is there something wrong with that? The COO frowned and asked. It's obvious that Mike wasn't expecting the CEO to arrive. Abruptly, he retreated. Oh, I understand, Mr. President. It was your suggestion. I apologize. Wow, old man, you sure do have some influential connections. Charles made fun of me and gestured toward me. His stupidity had me in fits of rage. Director Mike, I've heard that the second joint production with Kaner and the influencer have been canceled. And I've been told that Maria and the other young workers have all quit. Charles, how about your son? Is he stepping in to fill the voids left by the departing? Well, to that end. Mike was uneasy, as if he was abruptly faced with the reality. Charles, I conducted a little research. Not to mention any prior travel experience, you lack a passport. You were lazily playing video games in comic book shops and dorms before coming here. You were expelled from the dorm and fired for your indolent behavior. Then, didn't you go sobbing to your father? Belittle me. What the hell are you trying to do? No, I'm only expressing the reality. You're not very good at English. Your father made a desperate decision by enrolling you in a 1-week crash course in English. I see why you were unable to communicate at all. You even fabricated your TOEIC rating. Old man, where did you find all that out? Initially defiant, Charles was clearly shaken by the torrent of information. Director Mike, are you acting like a father and forging your son's credentials? Pathetic. He was meant to get experience and eventually work his way up to project manager status, just like Scene. Mr. President, keep me from laughing. Mike gave a little yelp in response to the CEO's scathing criticism. I closed in on Mike swiftly. Director Mike, are you aware of the harm that this company has suffered as a result of your workaholic attitude and your son's self-centered behavior? No, that wasn't my goal at all. No justifications. Recognize that it extends beyond the business. YouTube has the disaster at the sewing factory in Kolkata. In what way will you atone for this? The public will no longer support Panther in light of these articles. The two of you are a shame to Panther. It's all Dad's fault. It's not my fault. All of a sudden, Charles began to complain and avoid taking responsibility. I was at my breaking point. Don't assume that everybody, including your parents, will always come to your aid. You must accept accountability for your deeds. The absolute minimum for an adult is that. I told you, I'm not to blame. So you want to live your entire life pointing the finger at other people? Pathetic. I feel sorry for you. Nobody will assist you if your dad leaves this company. You'll always be associated with being a worthless daddy's boy. You should probably stay with your playmates. Charles covered his mouth in horror and appeared to have been hit by lightning as I was saying this. I don't intend to give up. Please, Mr. President, I'm prepared to give this company my entire life. I apologize, but your dedication is not needed at this time, the CEO said, dismissing Mike's entreaty with a hint of cynicism. This is not something you can accomplish. I'm getting close to retirement. It's callous to kick me out now. Don't act absurd. After all this laziness, did you really think you could retire with honors? You have delusions. Mike felt for the first time that he had been totally abandoned after hearing those remarks. His face went completely pale, and he appeared completely defeated. I landed the deciding blow here. Why won't you acknowledge it? You two really are a liability and a burden to this firm. The poisonous secondhand smoke you spew lowers the spirits of people around you significantly. You are unintentionally undermining the morale of your esteemed coworkers. You have to understand that this company is tainted by your existence. Make over your disgusting appearance and demeanor, and begin your new life as a recent graduate. That knocked Mike and Charles back, causing them to collapse into the wall. I told the COO, I'll let you know about the disciplinary actions later, and I walked away, leaving the unhappy couple behind. Both were disciplined afterwards. Mike was fired and given a harsh reprimand for fabricating his son's credentials. It was unfortunate because he was about to retire in a few years. He reportedly battled valiantly to maintain his severance money throughout the internal audit, but the ruling stood. Mike had intended to pay off his mortgage and make real estate investments with his sizable severance money. At the age of 55, he was having trouble finding work. It was impossible to find a salary that was close to what he made at Panther. Even a fifth of that was difficult for him to come by, so in order to make ends meet, he had to start working night shifts at a convenience store. Charles received the same criticism for his slack work ethic as his father. The picture of him intoxicated was the last straw, demonstrating his total lack of professionalism. Charles received a 35% wage reduction, a demotion, and a new assignment as a sales clerk at a local store. But he soon gave up on that too, re-establishing contact with the same shadowy figures who had released the inebriated picture, and apparently turning into a hazardous courier. Charles is currently incarcerated as proof, just like his father and son. A boy who lacked any sense of responsibility, and a father who was power-hungry and unmotivated. I was interested to see how these two delusional people would try to earn back my faith. The issue sparked by the weekly Shunin article worried the COO, who made the decision to step down in order to put a stop to the problem. I am largely to blame for what transpired with those two. He had been the head of a large corporation for many years, in spite of public disfavor. He departed the company with the staff giving him a heartfelt send-off and praising him for his accomplishments. We locked eyes for the very last time as he proceeded down the line. He extended his hand to shake hands. I appreciate you coming back. Going forward, I need you. Will you come visit me in Chiba? Please bring your dog. In return, I gave a quiet greeting. I have an Australian Labradoodle, a unique breed of pet. I met and adopted my dog from Chiba Prefecture, where the CEO's wife is a breeder. I met the CEO before I even started working for the company, since he hosts a get-together for purebred owners a couple times a year at his home. To say that the CEO trusted me with this company would be presumptuous, but Panther is at a pivotal point in its history to aid in reconstruction. I've been contacting dependable past coworkers and extending an invitation to collaborate once more. Maria recently responded to me in a great way. I watched the CEO go, inspired to try again, determined to make a splash.